Conservation Commission continued public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetland Protection Act, and Chapter 561, Division 2, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the town of Wall Street Development Corp. Request an amendment to the order of conditions located off Burns Avenue. Plans may be reviewed at the Conservation Commission Office, Room 212. Public hearing in the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, December 13th, 2017, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested persons are requested to be present. The hearing was opened and continued. And do we have anything else to read in here or not? No. Okay, representing the applicant?
No mic, so Luke Petrosi for Wall Street Development Corp. The last meeting that we had with the commission requested a more detailed planting plan for the disturbed buffer area, with the 25-foot buffer area that the commission is allowing us to disturb, and also tree planting area that's on the Brook Lane homeowners as a buffer. So what we did and what you have in front of you tonight is a detail of the plantings that will be put in place on the within the 25-foot buffer. Approximately, I believe, 276 shrubs that are going to be planted in this area. There's a detailed list of which kinds of high bush blueberries, witch hazel, hazelnut, whatever, maple leaves, service berries, and dogwoods, and all those little shrubs that are good wildlife habitat for this area. We also we had a little discussion at the time about the types of trees that we're going to plant along this buffer area. We've come up with Norway spruce and a combination of Norway spruce and white pines. There are a number of types of trees that can go in there, but we've had, in my other projects, we've had good success with the white pines and the white spruce, Norway spruce combination. So we'd like to stick with those trees as the plantings along the property line to the rear of the property. And I think that's was it. We've got notes on the plan relative to the restoration area that goes in this area, the protocol for doing that. So I think that unless the commission has any other comments.
Okay. Landis?
Yeah, so the supplement is just planting plan, right? Yeah. So the other.
Yeah, it's the restoration.
Right.
I will say the only area that we left out is this area. On our original proposal, we had trees that were going to be planted along this corner of the property, but because what's the reason we can't do that? It's degraded riverfront is what we've called it, right? So I think we need to get permission from the commission that's pretty cool, to do that, to put trees in that area.
Yeah, I think you just have to meld it together with the plan that you already had developed by Oxbow, which was to take out the degraded material, to save the trees,
Right.
some of the trees, and then perhaps do some additional plantings. So
Yeah, well, I don't
think
that
there's a
they-
problem with
think
it
that their
doing
plan-
additional plantings, but it kind of went a little bit against the Oxbow plan.
Well, yeah, well, We didn't, I'm not quite sure what Oxbow, I'll have to go back and read with it, but I don't think they contemplated planting anything the size of these 6 to 8 foot pines and spruces, so.
No, it references saving the trees.
Saving, but I think, my neighbor will speak to it, but there's really not a lot of stuff there that's worth saving. If you've walked into that corner, it's really kind of trees that have been blown over and knocked over, and they're ashes that look like if they haven't been blown over, they'll be blowing over soon. So, of course, when we walk, when we get there and we have the erosion control installed and you walk the site, at that point, maybe you can give us a little bit more direction on what you think we should do in that particular area, because there isn't a lot there that's worth saving in the long run.
Other than, I just wanted to make sure that the degraded area to be restored was actually put back on the plan. So besides that, I don't really have any other comment regarding the planting. The 25-foot restoration planting plan seems quite aggressive, so generous.
Okay. Jim?
Nothing.
Roger?
We say a proposed fence or screen that means it may or may not be put in,
What are you talking about here?
right?
Well, we haven't had really any communication with the neighbor, so we don't really know what we may end up doing both, we may end up doing one or the other. If the neighbor would like to communicate with us to what they would like to see, maybe we would have a better direction, but at this point, we don't know. But we're offering it,
It's-
mainly because the units, the homes that we're building, we don't want them to have to look at what's next door, to be honest with you. So,
Right.
we may have to build a wall 20 foot high, to keep other people out,
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
you may have more competition on that wall.
Yeah, no kidding, a lot less money, but.
Well, the degraded area to be restored, how do you plan to restore that?
I think there's a protocol here that was in the condition in the order that Oxbow did a narrative on how that's supposed to happen. We're supposed to go in and clean up the area, excavate the area that is with degraded material, and replenish that material with good soils, and then replant that area.
With shrubs or trees or?
Yeah, well, again, I'm not familiar with what they proposed, but what we were proposing is that we would extend this tree line in that area. But that wasn't part of the original proposal, and the commission would have to say to us, it's okay for us to do that kind of activity there. We're not opposed to doing it, so
Sounds like a good idea.
I think it's a great idea, but lately, nobody's been doing it.
Okay,
Anything
well,
else? Betsy?
yeah, I was gonna bring up, I thought we had talked about the white pines last time as being not,
We did, but, I have a list of, that I pulled off the internet, and I gave them to my wetland guy, and we compared what was on that list to what we have been doing. And as I mentioned earlier, we've had a great deal of success with the combination of white pines and spruces. So, there's no magic formula. So I'd like to try and stick with what we know has been working for us, rather than try to substitute. There's a whole bunch of other cedar trees or other types of evergreens that you can plug in. And we'll have to see when we get to that point where the planting's gonna happen. We'll monitor what the latest news is relative to and it also depends on availability too. Some of the stuff that is shown on it, some of it can't be planted in the shade, some of it needs to be planted in sunlight. And so it's above my pay grade to know what that is. But we've had good success with this combination in Westwood. right adjacent to Hale Reservation, and I think we should stick with that.
Okay, and then area will be watered as necessary during the first 6 weeks. Couldn't that be modified, watered as necessary until reasonably established? Because what if there's like a sudden drought or
Well, we're not
something?
planting in the drought, we would be, you know,
But still, it seems like a strange thing, like, oh, we cut it off at 6 weeks, and it's just couldn't
It
couldn't
could.
that wording be changed to until?
you can add that, I
Well,
guess.
so I would suggest that.
You can add that into the order. I mean, I don't write the narrative, but certainly when we plant this, we want, just like you would plant in the replication area, you
Yeah.
wouldn't plant it in the middle of summer, you'd plant it in late fall or early spring, so that the chances of going 6 weeks or without rain would be very slim. So, but certainly we can add that language in there.
Yeah, I would
you know.
say so, yeah. Okay, that's
Anything
it.
else, Betsy?
That's it.
Al?
Well, I guess I have to agree with replacing some of the stuff that's not very healthy and with things that we know that can grow in this climate, in this area. The ashes, you know, are susceptible to a disease now and they're dying off. And when we were there looking, the ash population didn't look too healthy, so if we have to replace it with evergreens, that's a good idea. So I'm on board with that, and the planting plan looks rather robust. I don't have a problem.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Yes? One take the mic, please. Thank you.
Cheryl Hayes, Walpole, Brooklyn. So first of all, again, my home is here, and from where we were back in March to what Liz has done, by basically giving me, and I will say me, and my neighbors, 276 bushes, shrubs, trees, I think is huge. That's the part why I was against this project from the beginning, was because of the alteration of the buffer zone. And that's basically my backyard. So the fact that he walked that property with us, he listened to us, he came back with more than like a 2-gallon pot. Like, I truly appreciate those efforts and his listening. As far as the, I think it's the degraded riverfront that we were talking about earlier, when we actually walked that property with my neighbor Brian Martin, we actually looked at the trees over in that corner, and I believe, if my memory serves me right, they are absolutely covered in some type of a English ivy. So those trees at some point are going to come down. They'll probably fall on somebody's home because they sit that close to the property here. So I think absolutely it's probably in everybody's best interest. He's probably actually doing us a favor if in fact those trees were removed and he was able to put some plantings in there as well. I think people would be safer. I'm trying to think what was the other point I was going to make. But overall, with the berms, and he actually did tell my husband and I that one of his plans was to have the tree person come out and look to see if there was healthy trees that he could save in this area. And if he could save them, he would. Again, I know that's added cost to him because it's a lot harder to work around huge trees versus just leveling everything and then kind of replanting when you're done. And the fact that he was actually willing to do that, I truly appreciated. So I would truly hope that you approve this and also the plantings over in that home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 5. Okay, what do we want to do on that? Betsy, you wanted to add something?
Oh,
Did you get that?
Watering.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought watering as needed was more important than putting the time limit on it.
So you want that on the plan?
I guess since it's not really on the plan, not on the plan, I mean, it says for 6 weeks, and that seems like not anything that homeowner would do.
How else can we handle that? Put it-
No, I mean, you can ask them to put it on the plan. Usually with these planting areas, they're required to, have it, 75% completed by a certain amount of time. And
Yeah.
so if plants die, they have to replace them. So it's kind of like
Is that
intuitive
actually-
that they're going to keep them healthy or not.
Is that actually on there?
I think it's in the order.
Okay, so then maybe my point is not useful. I don't know, I mean, if it's implied in the
I
order.
think the public hearing is closed,
Oh.
and now they're talking about the order,
Oh, I'm
making
sorry.
the decisions for the
I'm not
amendment,
allowed
so
to
just
participate.
let them,
I was a member.
just let them.
If you think it's
rehash it.
redundant, it doesn't have to be there, Landis. Okay, I just,
I
fine.
think it's somewhat redundant, just
Okay.
because the requirement,
Okay.
when we approve a plan, they say they're gonna do a
Yeah.
planting plan, it's sort
Okay.
of intuitive that they take care of the plants, because if they don't, they
Okay.
have to be replaced.
Got a revision date on it?
So this is just an amendment for the planting plan.
Planning plan. Oh, we got one in here, is it? Okay, right, yeah,
So
there
this
is a revision date for
Yeah,
this plan.
April 14th, 2000, oh no,
This
the
is
final
January
revision is
4th.
January 4th, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, there's nothing really then to add to the plan. We'll just accept this.
Yeah,
plan
I would
as
just
is.
make a motion to accept the amendment of the supplemental C revised.
Date of January 4th,
10th,
2018.
January 4th, yeah.
So we make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's just that one. We have,
Did you put out both files, or is the Peachtree one on?
Street is on there.
Town of Walpole Conservation Commission request for determination of applicability. According to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of John Glosser. Determine if the proposed construction of a single-family house with associated grading and utilities on 54, Lot 2, Peach Street, Walpole, falls under the jurisdiction of the Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Walpole Wetlands bylaw. Plans on file at the Conservation Commission office. Conservation Commission meeting will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, January 10th, 2018 at 7:15 PM. All interested persons request to be present. Time is now 7:20. Do we have anything here to read in, or what do we got? Board of Health at its January 2nd meeting voted unanimously that they have no specific issues or concern at this time regarding the request for determination. As from the town engineer, reference made to RDA, the above noted site, including the plan dated December 14th, 2017, and this department has no comments to make on the application as presented. Okay, that's it. Representing the applicant?
Well, my name is, should I use the microphone, something? John Glossa, Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. So I guess I'm sort of representing myself, but the owners of the property are Richard and Karen Adams, who a few years back bought, or actually Richard owned it for some time, 54 Peach Street here. And we were able to, back in 2016, to subdivide it into 2 properties, and I don't believe we came in front of the commission, right, for anything, because none of the work on the subdivision plan was within 100 feet of the wetlands. And the wetlands here were brought onto this plan because we did a filing for, I forget that number, but his name's Jim Bassan. I don't know which way the number's going. I guess maybe it's 58 Peach Street, I think. And so that was an order of conditions that was given to the applicant at the time to add on to this house here. And those were the flags that were shown on that plan, and we brought them onto this plan. And so now Richard and Karen are in the process of constructing the home on lot 2. So it's this lot in the back. And I think everything shows on the plan now that I filed. Okay, so here's the lot in the back, and this is what the planning board approved, which is essentially a 14-foot wide driveway with some drainage trenches on each side. This house will be connected to the sewer and the water system in Peach Street. And then this is the house that Richard and Karen would like to build. The builders here, their son, or Richard's son. And so the 100-foot buffer from those wetlands in the back come right into the lot here. So they're proposing to put the building here. There really is no change in the grade in this location here. So we don't think that we're going to be into the 100-foot buffer. If we are, maybe it's just minimal to kind of get that foundation in there. This is the location they would like to have. We are showing silk fence here along the 100-foot buffer, and essentially our plan doesn't show any work within the 100-foot buffer. So that's where we're at. This, I believe, in here anyway, is sort of grassed right now. This was grassed up to about here, and then this was sort of slightly wooded, but I believe it's been cleared now. This part of here. So that's sort of where we're at. So what happened was, we didn't really think about it too much. We filed, or we drew a plan up, and when they went around to get their signatures, Amanda suggested that we needed to file with their word. And that's why I'm here.
Okay. Landis?
I'll also add is when we made comment to this plan to the planning board, we did say it may require filing
Yeah.
in a notice of intent or request for determination with the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission because there was
Yeah.
buffer zone on the lot.
Yeah. In my defense, though, those things
So
don't
then-
always flow through to the poor bum who's drawn the plans, if you know what I'm saying. Sometimes they kind of get shut off at the
Just saying.
Yeah, no, not arguing, I'm not arguing.
Okay.
We should
so that-
have, we should have recognized it
No,
from
it's
the
okay.
start. but
So
we
that corner there, and I admit with the snow cover, I didn't get to go out before the snow cover. Is it treed in the corner of the buffer zone on the lot, or?
I know at one
Or
point.
was it treed and it's not treed anymore?
Yeah, it might have been treed and it's not.
So it's
treed.
probably been cleared already.
It's been cleared.
Yeah,
It's
it's
been
been
cleared.
cleared. Not sure how many.
far back, but it has been cleared back.
Yeah,
On
it's,
the lot.
it's probably been cleared. I don't know. It's probably been cleared to about here. I don't think it's been cleared all the way back to the lot
Yeah,
line.
I
We
need-
did have someone come in and clear this and probably clear to about that, and it would be my guess. They may or may not have gone within 100 feet, but no one's pulled any stumps out in that location, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, I don't, even working in that corner of the buffer zone, I don't think there, wouldn't impact the wetlands. So if the plan had shown some work in the buffer zone, I imagine I would still recommend a negative determination, so. That's, I think in the grade, I think it
It sort of
grade-
goes up before it goes back down.
and then it goes down, yeah, that's what I thought, okay. So I don't really have any other comments, other than just when if there's a buffer zone on a piece of property where there's activity and the activity's right up against the buffer zone, then I would say that they need to file, and that's why they're here tonight. But I see this as a negative determination.
Okay. Jim?
Nothing.
Roger?
No.
Betsy?
I just had a question. Why is the driveway called a paper road? Is it just because it was a paper road from way back or something?
No, it doesn't say a paper road.
A paper street? Or is it, yeah, I think it's pointing to that, isn't it?
I don't know, but, so, the way it sort of works is if you have enough land and you can sort of create a subdivision through the subdivision control law using the town's regulations as far as lot width and as far as roadway width and that sort of stuff, then generally for a 1 or 2 lot subdivision, the planning board will waive their strict requirements for construction down to something less than that. And in this case, they did a couple of things. Originally, we had a cul-de-sac here, right, the bulb, which would have pushed everything back, and for some reason, they decided, and they've never done that before, and I don't think they're ever gonna do it again, from what I've heard. They've decided that not to put the cul-de-sac in, because they just thought, well, it's dead land, and we might as well collect some taxes on it. So they allowed us to take the cul-de-sac off, and then as far as the construction, so that's the geometry, as far as the construction, instead of putting in a 26-foot wide street with a sidewalk on one side and curbing and this and that, they let us put in a 14-foot wide driveway. It's only going to this house here. This house has its own driveway in the front here, so.
And it's gonna be torn down, right? Is that what it says?
No,
Dwelling to be raised.
yeah,
It
well,
says. Oh.
that was our understanding when we put that note on there, but I don't think that there's anything that requires it. This lot and that house on their own, on that lot, conform to zoning and conform to all the requirements. So there isn't any real requirement to take that house down. So that was something we had added to the plan, thinking that that's what our client wanted to do at the time. But I don't think that there's anything that sort of forces him to do that. If I had my guess, I'd say eventually that house is gonna come down, but I'm just telling you that it's not an absolute.
All right, thanks. That was a little off topic. Sorry, guys. I was just curious. All right, thanks.
What's this mean, emergency access
So-
easement?
So as far as the fire department said, look, we don't have a problem with this, But we want to be able to, you know, the fire department's problem with things like this is that, you know, the cop car is the first guy there, and then the ambulance, and then the fire truck parks behind the ambulance, and then maybe, you know, someone else parks behind the fire truck. So they want some, you know, some places to pull off so that they don't all get stacked up, so that if you do have to get someone out of there in a hurry, you know, the ambulance isn't blocked in, so to speak. So it's kind of a T on the end, or an L
Okay.
on the end there with a hammerhead, so that's what that's all about. So that's just gonna be a gravel area that, or, he can pave it, he has the option to pave it, but it's just an area that supposedly is gonna be left open with a turnaround so that in emergency, it can be used.
No swing
Okay,
sets.
no problem. I just don't like the corner of the house almost touching the buffer zone line, because
Well, I think
we
this is
know that you
graded in.
can't drive a tractor or a bulldozer around without going into the buffer zone there, but as long as it's restored afterwards, I don't have a problem.
Okay. In this Paper Street, is that a separate lot?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So there is a 1 foot wide, and again, the planning board asked us to do this. There's a 1 foot wide strip here. So the planning board's concern was that if this roadway was built against that lot line, that's Phil Wild's property, and there is quite a bit of property there, that then there would be the opportunity to have more lots on this street, which, you know, they're saying, well, John, we're letting you put in this reduced constructions street. How do we know that now, you know, Mr. Wild or his successors isn't gonna come in and get 2 more lots or something on a 14-foot road? So they didn't want 3 lots on a 14-foot road. So they asked if there could be sort of that little strip which is part of Lot 2 and prevents the abutter from sort of claiming I abut a public street in the sense that it was laid out by the planning board. So that's what that little thing
So
is
this, sort of, basically the driveway, is it considered a public street, or?
No, it wouldn't be considered a public street, no, but, you know, we all don't, you know what the future's gonna bring, so it's a little belt and suspenders. There's a whole set of documents that says that the owner of Lot 2 can never ask for this to be a public street, but, so that's the belt, so the suspenders are that there's also a 1 foot wide strip that would prevent the
But that,
abutter from.
but that, then the street is part of Lot 2, is that?
The street actually.
Or is that a
It's
separate?
on its own, so really what happens by what they call operation of law is down the road is Lot 1 would actually own, you know, the fee in the street to the center line here, and then Lot 2 would own the rest of it. That's just the way it works when you have a private street that abuts a lot.
Okay.
I mean, they own it, but because it was laid out as a street, they can only use it as a street. So just because they own it, they can't put a shed on it or you know, anything like that. So,
Okay.
Just one more, since the builder is here.
yeah.
The builder understands that any other activity in the buffer zone that requires fill, grading, or removal of vegetation, you'd have to come back because it's not proposed on the plan. That's understood, right? I mean, if it's a foot or 2 into the buffer zone for the foundation, you know, we understand that. But if there's gonna be grading or fill or structures or anything like that.
No problem at all.
You understand that? Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Okay. Anyone in the audience, any comments? There's nobody else over there, right? Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. -1 is what? you
-1, no work in
suggested?
the buffer zone.
Okay.
Where's the frontage on a public way there?
Well, this lot, so the frontage, This lot has frontage, frontage, and frontage. It's frontage.
It's
So
gonna be
it has
frontage on a
frontage.
public way.
So this is, well, it's not necessarily a public way, it's a way laid out under the subdivision control law. It doesn't necessarily have to become public, as long as it's laid out under the subdivision control law, right? So they signed it, and the frontage is here, here, and then along there.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we had our.
Wondered
circle,
about
our
the
circle
frontage,
would
but
be
that's
there.
not our issue.
A lot of pork chop lots in town anyway.
It was an unusual one, but
Okay. Did we make a motion for the negative one?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you.
So can I just ask Landis a question? Did Michael call you about the lot 30? Because my suggestion would be, if you think it's a problem, we can just re-advertise, you know.
No, it's not a problem. It's just was a confusion,
Yeah,
but
it-
it's not a problem administratively. It just caused confusion among the parties who are interested.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, having someone look over your work is a good thing.
Yeah, I did it too fast. No, you're right. I did it too fast. I just took the other one and just changed the dates
Yeah.
and the deed reference and a couple other little things. I didn't really look at every little thing on there.
Right, yeah, no, I don't think it needs
Okay.
any
All right.
re-advertisement or anything.
Thanks.
Yep. The heat is cranking.
We were in the main meeting room last week. It was colder.
You were in the main meeting room?
Yeah,
or
for
something else?
Adams Farm
Oh,
Committee.
yeah.
It was freezing.
Oh, no, sure.
This is,
Well, last week
What
was
is
a
in
cold
here?
week.
Yeah.
but, you know, the heating system, they still
Yeah.
should maintain whatever you set it at. I don't
Yeah,
know what-
well,
John,
John?
you're not staying around for this
Oh,
request for certificate of compliance for North
oh.
Ridge Farms, or?
Well, you had a lot of stuff on.
I did, so my recommendation is not to issue it tonight, but I didn't know if you were staying.
Well, can you just table it until I can get you, I'm sure the information's on the plan, because they take shots like every 10 feet. It's just, so there's points, you don't see them, but they should, when we make the plan we give to you, we don't put every little point on the, you know what I
Do
mean?
you
This-
want to talk about this for a minute while you're here?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Don't take your coat off, you don't have that much time. Where- You had some comments, where is it?
So this is the request for request for certificate of compliance, by Northridge Ventures LLC for Northridge Farms Warren Lane, DP 315994. And I had written a letter addressed to both Michael and John and CC to Margaret Walker regarding the as-built and some other issues that needed to be addressed prior to issuing the certificate of compliance.
So first of all, Aaron, I really didn't have time to like read your letter 100%, so if there's something in there that
That's
you
fine.
think, that is like a project killer, that's fine, and we can just redo it someday. I was just reading, the only part I was reading about, something about the grades and about the spillways and the elevations, so that's what I was saying is, all of the points that they shoot don't necessarily end up being on the plan, but if they're there, I'm sure they got shots of all of the spillways and the elevations and this and that. If it's just that, then, you know, I'm just asking if I could have the opportunity to add that stuff to the plan.
Right, so
But
maybe
if
you-
there's something else that's not sort of within my ability to, you know, something else that requires someone else, a wetlands expert or something, and it's something that's not gonna happen, and you just wanna have us come back some other day with another one, that's fine also. So-
Right, so maybe rather, the commission doesn't act on it tonight, and then we can sit down and go over these maybe with Maggie too, and flesh them out, because there was discrepancies in like the top of the basin, that the elevations were much lower than what was shown on the plan, and the peak elevation, so I would think that would be important to have on your as-built. So that would be fine, we can go over my points, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, or whenever it's fleshed out.
Yeah, that makes,
Yeah,
that
that's
makes a lot
fine.
of sense.
Okay.
And like I said, what I can do is bring in the plan, it'll look messy, but it has all of the points on it. So when, you know, they go out and they survey it and you get all these points, but then what they do is they just tell the computer, okay, now make the contour lines, and the computer.
But you should have the top of the basin, should be
Yeah,
one of the
I-
main contour lines, right?
Right.
Okay, especially when the peak elevation is, you know,
Right.
the last contour is lower than your peak elevation.
Because if the peak elevation, so they're 2-foot contours, so if the peak elevation is 199.9, and we keep shooting that, it's only gonna show 198 when the computer contours it, so that's what I'm saying.
Right, for basin one, there's the only contour that's on here is 192, but your peak elevation for the 10-year flood is 193, and no, that's the 1-year flood, and the 10-year it's 93.3, and for the 100-year it's 193. So it doesn't look like it's correct. If what you're saying is some of the elevations just weren't plotted, then
Right.
yeah, they need to be plotted.
Right. They can
We can go
adjust
over
the
that.
contour interval to anything, so we can adjust it to a half foot or a quarter of a foot, and then. let the-
However, you need to show on the as-built that it's been built
Yeah,
according to the plan.
Okay.
So we can go over this.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
fine. They don't have to take action
Yeah,
tonight.
we just table it and then we'll bring it
Yep.
up soon.
That's fine. Is that fine with you guys?
Okay, so whenever you get that revised, then you can get it back to Landis and get back on the agenda.
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
yeah, good, thanks.
okay.
My excuse.
Now you can go.
So they're not gonna take any action tonight, so it just stays on the agenda, and we'll continue it to the next meeting. You know, it just stays on there. The other certificate of compliance is for Rockland Federal Credit Union, 564 Main Street, DP 3151050, and that, we have an as-built, and everything on the as-built is fine.
Okay, so you wanna move that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
And then there's a request for an extension also by John Glosser for 102 Norfolk Street, DP 3151074. That is the Jones house with the little golf tee in the backyard. I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
Okay.
That's, he's requesting to extend it for another year.
So we wanna make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500.
As far as the enforcement orders, there's nothing new on 609 Lincoln Street. Nothing new on Boyden Estates. Once it melts a little bit, I'll go out there and take a look, but things seem to be on par now, better cleaned up. And then The only information for Main Street, 1900 Main Street, is the Board of Selectmen did issue their permit with conditions for them to comply with for the next year.
They did give them their business license?
They did with some guidelines and conditions that they have to follow, and I will just notify them to remind them that for their septic system, they will have to file at least RDA with us, and for any soil cleanups, they may have to file with us, and if they're going to continue to use that back area, they have to comply with the stormwater regulations.
You're also supposed to get us something with a fence, or the fence put up, or something to do with
Right,
the
they
fence.
still are required for the fence and the plaques.
Did the Board of Selectmen indicate any time frame for them to comply with our issues?
Good question. I don't think there was any particular date, but in fact, I don't have, they did issue a letter with specific conditions that have to be complied with, so.
But no date.
Oh, I don't know, there may be, I'm trying to go in by memory, because I forgot to put it back in the correspondence folders.
Just check that and see.
Is it this one, Amy? Because I thought this was another one.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this is the other one. I think it was sitting on my desk when I stuck it in here.
Just check what, if anything, the Board of Selectmen's
Right, I
letter
don't-
says, and if not a date, then we should
Here it
try
goes.
to give them
Here it is.
some reasonable time and expect that they will complete whatever they have yet to complete from our standpoint.
Right, so I don't think any of there's requirements for the taxes by March 1st. Just the type of use they're supposed to have on site, zoning requirements they have to comply with. And mostly zoning requirements. Then that they shall implement and comply with stormwater controls, so they do have to, by October 30th, 2018, so that should be us. As well as I think they have to comply with the site plan that was issued by the planning board. So it looks like October 31st, 2018 is
No, that's for
stormwater
stormwater.
compliance, and it says the last one is super agrees that if all conditions including this agreement are not fully satisfied on or before October 30th, 2018, neither if nor, then basically it'll be withdrawn, is the agreement. So, I mean, I think the understanding is they have to comply with all the town bylaw and requirements, and
So everything of ours goes to October 30th, including the fence?
if we tell them that, yes, they're already overdue on it, so.
Was that October 30th of last year?
No, this year, 2018.
18, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if we want to wait till October 30th.
No, I don't. I agree. They need to do it as soon as they can. So now that we have snow, it probably be,
Yeah, well, I don't know what, with the fence, what they're gonna do with the ground frozen, so we probably should look at that. We'll give them a May 1st
okay,
deadline.
yeah, I'll contact the lawyer and probably remind them that that's still a requirement that needs to be completed and.
That was all, that on the last bit, that was the only
Yes.
thing left, right?
Right,
Was
the fence, well, the fence, the plaques, and then,
okay.
any kind of, wetlands seed mix in the spring if wetlands vegetation.
So all
is
that should
not
be
there.
May 1st,
I
right?
would think May 1st, that they at least have their wetland seed mix down,
Yep,
not earlier. but the fence completed by May 1st.
So
And
the-
plaques,
So all that by May 1st?
Yeah.
May
Okay.
1st.
Okay.
And then we need to follow up. I'll keep it on our agenda, just so that I
Mhm.
would think around April 1st to remind them.
Right.
Okay?
Sure.
Okay? Anything else?
The minutes.
Okay, minutes from December 13th, so I want to move the minutes.
I'll move them.
We have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, I say aye. We're all here? Guess so. Yeah. Okay, 500. Okay. Anything else we got on here?
The board comments, the Baker Street, we sent comments to them prior regarding that two-lot subdivision of the planning board. 255 Union Street is on our agenda for the January 24th. And the 2375 Boston Providence Highway is just for a sign, it's not near any wetlands. And ZBA 255 Union Street, same thing, they're on our agenda, that's Foster's property is for the 24th.
Okay.
And then as far as correspondence, the ATC group, that's the Cumberland Farms site. If they're, the next door to Cumberland Farms, they're just doing some, observation, putting in a, doing some soil borings on that site. So they sent me how they're going to do the soil borings.
Okay. And Riverwalk, anything interesting
And the
there?
Riverwalk Commons is the report on the invasive species removal by BSC group. Just identifying the invasive species that have been treated in the past year or so, and that they're just, are recommending just continuing treating the Japanese knotweed and garlic mustard, and tree of heaven, the way they've been treating them.
Okay, so they plan to continue to
They will
do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
BSC is recommending, sort of maintenance, because a lot of it's been taken care of it, but keeping up on the maintenance so that things don't continue to migrate in. I know at some point I thought Riverwalk Commons that they were going to submit, sort of a end request to the commission, but they never did that. So if they're gonna continue doing maintenance, then it's a benefit to the area. So.
Yep, okay. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Okay. Someone wanna make a motion to close the hearing, meeting?
I'll move that.
Got a second?
Second.
That was quick.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
That's
I wanted to show you-
55.
Guys, my father donated over 400